there folks, Joe D'Angelo's here with another episode of Silent Film Saturday. This week I'm discussing one of my favorite silent film sagas, Zorro. But starting off with The Mark of Zorro, the first adaptation, if I'm not mistaken, of Johnston McCulley's famous character, as told in The Curse of Capistrano, also known as The Mark of Zorro. Yes, I do own the book because ever since I was a kid, I was a big fan of Zorro. I have Zorro, this Zorro, Val Kilmer Zorro, Serial Zorro, Antonio Banderas Zorro with more Antonio Banderas Zorro, and of course the Disney series, which is how I first watched the theme song to it. So, good series, but very expensive on eBay. Then there's the Silent Zorro with screen legend Douglas Fairbanks in one of his earlier swashbuckling roles. And let's take a look at this packaging. This is from Kino. So, it's actually a double feature of Mark of Zorro and its sequel, Don Q, Son of Zorro, making this a very early occurrence of a sequel. So bonus features, both films, rare home videos of Douglas Fairbanks, Fairbanks vs. Jack Dempsey, with a Pathé newsreel, introduction to Zorro by Orson Welles himself, and excerpts from Fairbanks' 1918 book, Making Life Worthwhile. So this is a really nice double feature with both films. I like Don Q, Son of Zorro, a lot. The first Zorro is fine. It basically has a good amount of the events that are featured in Johnston McCulley's novel here. Or not novel, it's actually serialized book, where it's just a lot of events happening, and you got Zorro. Douglas Fairbanks, I think, does a good job as both characters. He's fun and swashbuckling as the iconic Zorro, but also kind of a fop as Don Diego de la Vega, the alter ego. You know, he's just kind of like a loser. He's like, yeah, he's almost like a weakling. People can say almost gay. Somebody laughed in my background. But not gay, really, but, you know, bit off. So, you have the characters. You have Marguerite de la Motte, I believe. I forget this cast. Yes, and I believe she was also in a couple other Fairbanks films, which is really nice when you have people in other movies. This film, like I said, is just basically an adaptation of The Mark of Zorro, or Curse of Capistrano, with a lot of stuff. Interesting fact, Noah Beery, who appears in this film, also is in the Zorro serial, Zorro Rides Again, which was actually the first Zorro-related thing I ever watched in its entirety. I got this at Toys R Us when I was a kid for like $4. But the silent film is pretty good. It's got some iconic scenes. Zorro, nice chase sequences, using his sword, fighting. One of my favorite little amusing moments is where he's at an inn and he's drinking wine with his like tavern keeper, I guess, and he's just like, remember this, when you're doing something, never do it on an empty stomach. Which I found is kind of amusing. Interesting fact as well, in the 2011 film, The Artist, there are some excerpts from The Mark of Zorro featured in this film, as if the film's main star was in the film itself. So, nice little interesting fact. And, yeah, sort of to say, it's a good movie, but next week I'm really excited because I get to talk about Don Q, Son of Zorro. See you guys next week.